Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Fly in My Eye Exposed, the very last edition in the Fly in My Eye series. This came out in 1992, and like I was saying last time, each one gets thinner and thinner. This one is, I don't know, I think it's like 48 pages, maybe even 32. It's pretty thin, and but it's a damn good issue. It's one of my favorites, actually. And start off with this beautiful Clive Barker painting. Really love this painting. The brush strokes here. That looks so cool. It's a very nice cover. I kind of like this weird color scheme too. Very bright primary colors. Definitely stands out, this cover. Here we have an inside front cover design by, I don't know. It could be Jim Whiting. He seems to do a lot of the art for this series. Title page with a Matt Howarth illustration. This is from the story within that we're about to read. And we have the contents page. And not much in this issue because it's very thin. And I guess that's it. So now we get into the first story. My Name is Legend. Story and art by Matt Howarth. It's one of my favorite Matt Howarth stories. This is a really good story. A really good sci-fi story. And we start off and the spaceship, I guess it was heading for the moon, but it crashed before it could leave the atmosphere and ended up in the deserts of Australia. The owner of the ship, this guy, Hans, he's like the scion of some billionaire. Well, I guess it's the future, so he could be a gajillionaire. He's just some super rich guy. So this kid, Hans, is just the biggest spoiled piece of shit. He's just terrible. He kind of reminds me of, he's very Donald Trump-like. He's just completely narcissistic sociopath who doesn't care about anyone. We also meet his kind of girlfriend, Lita, and it's more like she's like a concubine. Just by their dynamics, I think he basically paid for her to be his girlfriend or something, to be his companion. She's not even allowed to question anything he says. If she does, he threatens her. And Hans is bitching about the pilot. He's like, that incompetent pilot, you know, my daddy's gonna take care of him. And Lita makes the mistake of actually saying, well, actually, Hans, you were at the controls when the ship crashed. And he threatens her. He says, I could replace you, Lita. So she shuts her mouth. Then we meet the pilot. He's the protagonist of the story. And this guy's a great character. Like, I wonder if Matt Howarth ever used him again. His name's Eddie Skye. He's an Aboriginal pilot, and he just this really cool, super cool character. Hans is chewing him out, and, you know, Eddie's basically just like, yeah, whatever. You know, it's like talking to a child throwing a tantrum. Apparently there's some kind of like, the crash released this like liquid from the ground, and Hans thinks it's oil, so he thinks he's rich. And of course, he's just completely selfish. He's like, this is my oil. I hired you to fly me to the moon, so that makes it mine. And then he's bragging about what an alpha male he is to Lita. So Lita has a chat with Eddie, and maybe there's something there. I don't know. I think she just is so disgusted with Hans, and any company that's not Hans is welcome. So Eddie is going through the ship, trying to find any circuitry he can use to fix the radio. He says, though, they're doing okay. The life support systems haven't crapped out or anything, but they got to get the radio fixed so they can call for help. And then Hans hollers from outside. And there's a bunch of Aboriginals out there. And of course, Hans doesn't like this. And basically he's like, how come they're not rescuing us? As if they, you know, that's their job. So Eddie goes to talk to them, and it looks like the leader of these Aboriginals says that basically this evil spirit has been released. This is forbidden land that you're on, and there's this great evil that is buried here. And the evil must never be disturbed. And I'm sorry, he didn't say it's released. I said that accidentally. They basically tell them that the leader of the Aboriginals says the evils here are awakened by the proximity of other evil, and it is forbidden to leave now that you've entered into this Obodab, the forbidden land. Of course, Hans is furious. He's like, "What do you mean we have to stay here?" And he's railing against them. And Hans is just fuming, threatening the Aboriginals and threatening Eddie when they get back to civilization, how he's going to crucify him, basically. So the Aboriginals have set up camp, and one of them strays from the fire, and some of that black goop comes out of the ground and completely surrounds him. His name's Paolo. And so the rest of the crew is just like, "Paolo!" And one of them, they recognize that it's the evil creature that has possessed him. So one tries to stab him with a spear. The evil force, the evil entity just crushes his head. A bunch of them attack him. And then finally they light him on fire. And that seems to do the trick. So that's the only thing this evil thing is susceptible to. Really nice, sharp Matt Howarth art in here. I love his textures, all these crazy lines and dots everywhere. So, I guess that weird black ichor is creeping into the ship and gumming up things. Pretty soon the life support's not going to work anymore. So when Lita's talking to Eddie, he thinks she's playing, like, I don't know, pretending. She says, "Oh, my name's Lita." Like she's pretending like she's never met him. And Eddie approaches Hans and says, "Your wife has forgotten me. She's a whole new woman." So meanwhile, Eddie gets back to work trying to find circuitry, but everything's fried. All the circuits are fried. The crash shouldn't have done that. Obviously something's up. Something's not kosher. When Eddie goes back in the ship, he finds these 3 almost like cryogenic drums. And in one of them, he sees the rotting corpse of Lita. This is the genetic material he's been using to make clones of Lita. So that's why Lita didn't recognize him the day before. I guess Hans killed the first Lita that we met in the story. The first, her clone. And I guess that's what he does. That's what a sick fuck he is. He's not just content subjugating this poor woman, but he likes to every now and then just, I guess, thrill kill these clones of Lita. So when he goes into the next room, he realizes Hans has been possessed by the evil entity. It looks like he's sucking her spinal column out from her back. And the evil entity fully takes over Hans. And starts really seeping into the ship. So, Eddie hightails it out of there. Tries to, attempts to escape. I really love this panel for some reason. That's just amazing. Just a graphic there. Before he goes, though, he turns around and makes a point to shoot Hans in the head. Because he still doesn't want Hans to live. He doesn't know if the evil entity can, if you can get unpossessed. But he basically knows that, Hans just killed this leader because he was possessed by the entity. But the night before he wasn't. That was just pure evil Hans. So the ship is totally getting enveloped in this black ichor. And Eddie runs to the cryogenic tubes to save the last clone of Lita. He doesn't want her to die. And they jump out of the ship. And he says, come on, guys, we gotta go. To all the Aboriginals guarding the ship. They run to this outcropping of rock. And I guess it looks like they're safe, temporarily safe. The black ichor can't get at them. So Eddie has got the remote controls to the ship. And he basically blows up the whole reactor within the ship. And it seems that it incinerates the evil entity. Of course, the Aboriginals are saying atomics are bad. And Eddie says sometimes the cure is no better than the disease. And I guess the Bushmen will lead them to safety, so they're going to be okay. And then they have this weird tagline at the end. I guess it was the 80s, or well, the early 90s. But on top of all of his evil and psychoticness, Lita says, "You don't even know you don't even know the worst part. Hans was a high-level representative of apartheid. He was going to the moon to lobby for lunar white supremacy." It's a weird thing to throw on at the end. Oh, this is so nice. This is why this issue is so good. Our Illustrious Visitor of 1959 by Rick Geary. If you've watched this channel, I've splooged over Rick Geary many times. Love his stuff. And this takes place in 1959. It was a sweeter, slower time. And this woman is reminiscing about when she was a girl. Her father was kind of a minor celebrity because he had the best fallout shelter in the Midwest. He was written up in magazines. We see all of the amazing accoutrements of this fallout shelter. And this is about the time when Khrushchev came to visit America. He did a big tour of the United States. And part of his itinerary, he wants to come see this amazing fallout shelter. Even in Russia, the fallout shelter is legendary, he tells them. So he comes in the fallout shelter, and it looks like he's drinking lots of vodka, getting drunk. And he kept the family up all night with his raucous tales of peasant life. And as he leaves, he gives them all presents. Look at this beautiful Rick Geary art. He's such a good cartoonist. It's weird though. The daughter senses a sad desperateness in him. As he was led away, he looked back at me with a deep, ineffable longing. 6 weeks later, he sent me this sweet and amusing postcard as a remembrance. I love this ending. It's a close-up of the postcard of a mushroom cloud. But the way he, as the narrator, as the storyteller, he's 6 weeks later, and you're like, oh my God. But it's just a close-up of this postcard. So everything's fine. It's a happy ending. Look at the way he draws this mushroom cloud. Rick Geary has such a weird way of drawing clouds and water, and very, very unique. And finally, we have another J.K. Potter portfolio. This is the second one we've had in Fly in My Eye. And like all of his stuff, it's retouched photos. But it's kind of, some of these are pretty amazing considering this is way before Photoshop. So he could do some amazing things with just analog trickery. Really kind of disturbing images. think this was a book cover. This one's pretty gnarly. Yeah, this one's really weird, really creepy. I kind of like this stuff. I feel like I shouldn't. I usually don't like this photo stuff, but he's got a good imagination. Kind of like this one with this little. He needs a tonsillectomy. He has a very insidious tonsil going on. Here's more of those end paper graphics. And a back cover by Jim Whiting, who, yeah, this guy's he's not a great artist. But I kind of like this. I kind of like these weird creatures. It's just, I think he shouldn't try to draw humans, normal humans. He doesn't know how to draw them. He probably does now, hopefully, if he's still drawing. So there you go, guys. Fly in My Eye Exposed, the last in the Fly in My Eye series. And I wish there was more of these. Even though the worst stuff, the worst issues, they're just an interesting anthology. Definitely had a voice. Definitely had, Steve Niles definitely, there's a tone running through all of these. And some interesting stuff in these. So hope you liked looking at them. And I hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.